Hey guys, Jaden and Riley at Tweak Fitness in Tully. Welcome to Tweak Talk. We're progressing. This week we have a name, which we're excited about. I hope you enjoyed our first episode, our first attempt at a longer form conversation. Today, what we thought we'd do is give you a little bit of background on who we are and who you're listening or watching.
Where we came from.
Yeah, where we came from and then sort of how we came to be here. Just a little bit of background. Now, bear with me. I've been trying to print today's sort of run sheet. I don't know what it is with this place, but there's not a single printer that I can get working, which makes me somewhat irate. But anyway, we're here and we'll get it underway. So if you see me glancing over here, it's just because we're just touching on.
I think we ran over Chinaman when it comes to printers, hey?
Yeah, I don't think you're allowed to say that. I think that's somewhat controversial.
Well, that's a saying.
It is definitely a saying, yeah, cool.
Apologies.
Yeah, here we are, politically correct.
Yeah.
But yes, I agree. Okay, cool.
I just said that, but my grandparents used to say that all the time.
Yeah, I know, yeah. I think you're still allowed to say it, but I think you can go to jail for saying stuff.
Pretty controversial.
Yeah, nowadays, yeah.
Have to be careful on this podcast.
Anyway, we'll see how many more people we can offend as we go. We're a minute in, so we'll see how we go from there. Yeah, cool. All right. Okay, so where are we right now? Just to give you a bit of context as to the time that we have, where we are. It's the 1st of July, so the start of the new financial year. In Queensland right now, restrictions are going from stage 2 to stage 3 on Friday this week, the 3rd. What that means, I don't think really anything.
Means nothing to us, hey, until...
Well, we haven't seen what it means yet.
Yeah.
On the paperwork, it's looks like nothing. That would sort of change the day-to-day runnings of the gym. The thing that we're waiting for is being able to move to 24-hour accessibility for our members. And I don't know if that will come, I don't know who that comes through. Probably Fitness Australia or via the government, I don't know. So we just sort of have to wait and hang out for that sort of stuff. We've been getting a lot of questions from members like, do you know in advance what's going on? The answer is, fuck no.
we know as much as you guys do.
Yeah,
so.
we've, it's pretty unprecedented times, I think that's clear for everyone, hey? So we really don't know any more than anyone else. And we sort of get updated as things come on the news. And make changes around that. So the good thing is that we're up and running, which is good.
Awesome.
So being able to change onto 24 hours is going to be a simple change for us. It means we can turn the system back on and inform our members, which is cool.
Yeah, it'd be awesome. There's lots of seasonal workers at the moment, obviously with the bananas and stuff, but also the cane season has started too. So we've got lots of people keen to do those crazy sessions at the end of their night shifts and stuff. So believe it or not, we do have a few that come in at like 11,
12,
1, 2, 3. It's bizarre. So those guys will hopefully be able to start coming in after their shifts sooner rather than later.
Yeah, hopefully we're not too far away from that.
Yeah.
All right, so we thought we'd get into giving you the whole spiel, where we're from, how this all sort of came about, how we ended up sitting here, and then touch on briefly, I think, some ideas for the future that we have and our sort of ideas around that. So, do you want to get started with who you are?
I was hoping you would.
Okay, okay, cool. All right, so I grew up in Ingham, was sort of born and raised in Ingham, was born in Townsville, but raised in Ingham. So just down the road from Tully, where we are right now. Ingham, North Queensland, in case you're not familiar with where that is, which I wouldn't imagine you would be, had you not been in the area. So I grew up with a sister, Jenna, who worked in the business for 5 years or something like that. She was the operations manager at the time. Had a bub and since moved out of the business, but still helps us from time to time with some stuff that I don't know about.
Emergencies, recall. Help!
Yeah, that's right. So,
Poor Jenna.
100%. Yeah. So we grew up in Ingham. Did all my schooling in Ingham. I was not a fan of school, probably from the day dot. I was a reasonable student because I was too scared not to be a reasonable student. I didn't want to get in trouble, so I did my homework and that sort of thing. But I really didn't like it. People talk about, you know, wanting those days again, or if I could go back to school. There's not enough money in the world that you can give me to send me back to school. The environment didn't suit me. The learning style didn't suit me. The vibe I felt didn't suit me. I can think of one time it was grade 7. I remember it like as clear as day. The teacher said to me, don't do what I say. No, what's the saying? Do as I say, not as I do. That's the saying. I was like, fuck, man, this school thing is not for me. If this is the thing that they're working on, this is not my deal. I never believed in that, so I grew up emulating mum and dad, so I did the complete opposite to that recommendation. And that was the tone of my experience throughout my whole schooling. That was what I found that I saw over and over again. That was just my experience. Whether it was the experience for other kids around me, I don't know. I've always been really old, an old soul. Like how I am now is how I am when I was 6. If you talk to Jenna or you know, mum or dad, they will attest to that. You know, maybe boring and square. That's how I was all the time.
I don't think so. I think that you're just really wise.
Yeah, well, I don't know. Whatever it is.
Yeah.
Whatever it is, this is how I've been forever. So the whole school thing.
When I first met Jaden, I was like, how old is this guy? Because it was so hard to know. You know, he's obviously young, but then like you'd speak to him and he'd speak to you like he's had 20 years experience in the industry and more. So
yeah, I don't know if that's a good or a bad thing, but that's the way it's been for me forever.
Yeah.
So school didn't. I was just like, whatever. So school would never go back. I did okay. I was someone that didn't get bullied. Like I had friends, and those experiences were all fine for me. Like I have good friends still now. The friends that I hang out with are the people that I went to school with, and the relationships that I hold most dear. I think are guys that I went to school with. But the whole institution idea of it is not. And this is something that Riley and I sort of talk about a lot going forward for the day when we have kids and they have to go to school. Anyway, that's a whole different thing for a whole different talk.
We'll have to do another talk on that one.
Yeah, but so that was sort of my deal there. I grew up playing soccer. That was my sort of first love. That was what I wanted to do with my life. My idea was that I was going to be a professional soccer player, which was really good for me. I think having that experience, because going into business, it was a similar sort of experience. People tell you when you want to be a professional sports person that you have to have a realistic dream and have a backup plan and all that sort of stuff. And that was the sort of thing that I saw a lot of, because when people asked me what I wanted to do, I said that's what I wanted to do, a professional soccer player. And they'd say, yeah, but what do you really want to do? And I was like,
play professional soccer.
Yeah, that's what I want to do. So it was really interesting, because when you go into business, you see a lot of the same things. It's like, that's a bad idea, or you know how much it's going to cost, or you know, so it prepared me really well, I think, for going into business, for the way that I sort of dealt and handled with those things. That never came to fruition for me, but it was a really cool experience and something that I would never trade, and I would encourage my kids and kids out there to get into, whether it's a team sport or an individual sport, because I learned so much from the discipline that I had to have.
Being at that level.
At a reasonable level, the coaching that we had and the just the whole idea of, you know, holding yourself to a higher standard. We used to get encouraged to make our bed, have good grades at school. It was like a rounded, holistic sort of person with the encouragement that we got as part of those programs, and that's something that I wouldn't give away for the world. That was so important to me. It also taught me to be independent. I was not independent. I wanted to be home with mum and dad. I was shy and all those sorts of things. So you know, having to go away and
Yeah.
perform under pressure and that sort of stuff was really good for me.
Sometimes without that support there.
Yeah,
too.
yeah. Not a lot, because Mum and Dad travelled a lot
I
with
was
me.
going to say,
Poor
they
buggers are
wouldn't have
all
missed
over.
anything.
Yeah, but
my brother was similar too.
yeah. So that was the experience there. I think that's what led into my experience with health and fitness.
Yeah.
Growing up is was really sporty. I started to get exposed to different styles of training as a result of that. We touched on nutrition, but it was really light. This is a little while ago now, so not as much information around nutrition as there is now. But I started to sort of dip my toe into different styles of training and nutrition, and that sort of gets me to the end of school. So, what if?
You had an injury in all of that, in amongst all of that too, didn't you?
Yeah, I had a couple of injuries in all of that. I think I had an injury at a really crucial time, I think, which sort of broke me probably mentally more than it did physically.
Yeah.
Put me out at a certain time. I sort of lost my spot, and that sort of changed things. Yeah, that sort of changed things in my head. It was like, man, I was working so hard to get to a particular point, and I was sort of there. Got an injury, knocked me out. Someone sort of bumped my spot. It was like, oh man.
Yeah.
And I never really recovered from that.
But I guess that injury like that really put a whole new perspective on rehabilitation and going into health and fitness.
Yeah, and on the importance of your body.
Of your body, yeah.
That was,
I think being so young, you just like go, and you don't actually think like what your body is actually doing for you at that time.
Yeah, 100%. And I never considered my body at that point in time the vehicle
that got you there.
Yeah.
Which
which looking back is an odd sort of thing. Hey, but you just don't have the maturity, or it was never explained in that way, or whatever the case may be. So, so that was the end of it. I continued to play after that, but never, maybe never with the same sort of vigor and intensity as what I did have. It just sort of, it was a bit of a mental break in the system for me. But yeah, I look back on those years super fondly, and yeah, wouldn't change them for the world. Any of it, the injury and the getting bumped out of I wouldn't change any of that at all. So that's me up to sort of the end of high school-ish.
What about when you went into business?
Well, what if you do your little bit, and then see, I've got this run sheet going.
Oh my God, there's a schedule.
So, let's stay on schedule. This is what I'm like.
Okay. Well, I'll go into my background. So I grew up here in Tully. It's quite similar to your upbringing, really. We lived in a little old cane barracks on Murray Street, and yeah, I was born in Cairns, raised here in Tully. 4 years after I was born, my brother was born, and our little cane barracks got too big. Too small, sorry. So Mum and Dad built our house that they're now living in now. And yeah, we had a really beautiful childhood. I'm so grateful for our childhood. Yeah, Mum and Dad were just the absolute they still are the most amazing, supportive parents. Sporting-wise, I guess I'll touch on my school experience too. I hated it too. Certain aspects I absolutely love, like the social aspect and being around my friends and that, but I suffered a lot from anxiety as a kid. I was never really bullied. I mean, I think every kid's had a certain bullying experience, but I was never really bullied. But definitely had those little anxiety gremlins creeping around as a kid. Partly because I was born without a thyroid completely. So I was medicated from birth. I was medicated with synthetic thyroid hormones. The thyroid is pretty much your pacemaker of your entire body. So it produces hormones that then all your other hormones, growth hormones, development. Everything is extremely reliant on the thyroid in order for you to grow into a healthy child, adolescent, then adult. So I guess I had a few little anxiety gremlins creeping around, especially during those really crucial growth periods. The medication needed to be upped a little bit as I grew, and sometimes we couldn't keep up with that. And the
Couldn't
result.
imagine what that would be like. Like, no one knows how to deal with no thyroid. Someone that's born without thyroid now.
Yeah.
So
Back then
20
it was
years ago,
really weird. Yeah.
just imagine.
See, I don't know any different, but I could definitely feel it when I did need that top up of medication, because as you grow, you need more medication to support your growth. So
To emulate what your thyroid would be doing if you had one.
yeah. So if you had a slower thyroid, which would happen as I grew a lot, one of the major symptoms is anxiety, like that depressive state, panic, and just really, really tired and lethargic. I can't explain to you the type of tired that thyroid tired is. Poor Jaden. So I used to go through a few different stages where I would just be absolutely so exhausted and so anxious, but it was never really any sort of outside aspect that was causing that. It was what was happening in here, and sort of like a loss of control, I guess you could say. But I was really, really lucky because I had such a beautiful, supportive family. My mum would get me in to see a lady that would help me with different coping skills, and I was really able to live a really, 90% of the time, a really happy, fun childhood because I had those skills. So I'll be forever grateful for those, and I still use them now. So yeah, but schooling, yeah, I loved it. I loved the social aspect. As we grew up, I sort of wasn't really into team sports, and I think that was just, I don't know, I just had this thing that I didn't really want to let anyone down. I don't know if that's weird or if anyone else felt that as a kid, but that was like one of those things for me, is that it wasn't a strong point of mine, like ball skills and running and all that sort of stuff. I really wasn't like really good at it, and I just didn't want to let anyone down. Even though I played it, like Mum made me play netball, and I enjoyed it, like it was fun, and a bit of touch football, which I hated. And I played soccer for a few years, which it was good fun, and I really enjoyed the social aspect and stuff, but I couldn't honestly say I was never really good at it. But yeah, I guess, so yeah, I went into, I loved dancing, so I had been dancing since I was really little, like 3 years old. Mum had always had me in dancing, and my brother and I did gymnastics on and off. That was also really fun. And then we got into motocross, which was really, really cool. Well, my brother, he ended up getting a 50 for his like 5th birthday or something, and then we played around on that for a few years. And then we sort of progressed into, Zach, we both progressed, we both got bigger bikes, and Zach decided that he wanted to race. So he had a year to prove to Mum and Dad that he could race, and they got him a race bike, and he had a year of racing, and I was like, what the hell, I want to do this. This is so cool. And I loved riding just at home and on different motorbike tracks around the area on fun days and stuff, but I thought, no way, I want to race too. There was a couple of girls back then that were my age and into the sort of racing scene. So I got really inspired, and I thought, nah, this is cool. I really want to do this. So I had a year then. Mum and Dad did the same with me. I had a year to prove to them that I could race, or I was at a standard that I could race, because they didn't have a women's class. They didn't have a girls class. I was 13, 14 at the time. They didn't have a girls class back then, so I was racing. I can't say there is. Yeah, I'm not sure. I haven't been in it for far out, over 10 years now. So, but at that time, I was racing with 13 to 16-year-old boys. So, you can imagine a class of 40 bikes. The testosterone was raging, and there was only 2 of us girls that would be there on and off. So yeah, it was full on, but it was honestly the best experience ever. It was so much fun. We had an absolute ball, and I got so strong from it because there were situations where, you know, I was always too small for my bike. Dad had always ordered parts that made my bike smaller and easier to ride, but I was always too small for it. So it really taught me a lot of strength. You know, when there's a will, there's a way. If I had a crash on the other side of the track where, you know, Dad wasn't allowed out on the track to help me, I'd have to learn to figure out a way that I could get back on my bike, maybe wheel it over to the side of the track where there was a tyre, so I could lean on the tyre to then get back on and start it and get back into the race. So it was a really, really big thing for me as far as independence and really testing my limits, I think, to really see what I could do. And even little things like jumps and stuff, and it just really pushed me to certain limits, certain spaces, being in a certain space where I didn't think I could ever be. So mental, yeah, definitely. Really, really cool. And there was a few instances when I did beat a few of the boys, we'd all shake hands at the end and they wouldn't shake my hand because I beat them. So that was always made me feel good. Not the part that they wouldn't shake my hand, but it just made me feel stronger, I think. And yeah. And then my brother and I have always been into water skiing, wakeboarding. It's sort of absolutely in our blood, being on the water. Mum and Dad were both ski racers when they were young and have been brought up on the water. So that's something that we'll always be super passionate. We learned to ski really young. So we finished up motocross and got heavily into the wakeboarding scene, both cable and boat competitions. So we really got into that. And yeah, so it's been quite cool actually being in the same sort of sports scene as your brother. I really looked up to him. I still do now. He's absolutely amazing to watch on the water and really, really talented. And yeah, it was always a lot of fun to sort of, it was really nice to have obviously a brother-sister bond, you have the normal, you know, brother-sister bond where you fight or whatever, but also have him as a real friend too in those sorts of scenes, and really enjoying the same sports as each other. It was a lot of fun and real family-orientated sports. We were never here on weekends. At high school, I was never really in the sort of party scene. I was always away wakeboarding or motocrossing. There was always a comp on or a race meeting, and we had so much fun. And it's really, I look back on it now and really appreciate that, because you know we're at a stage now where we're going into that stage of bringing up kids one day, and I think that's a really cool thing. So to really have that, and yeah, we had a ball. Always been a really tight-knit family, and those sorts of sports really brought us together even more, I think. So
yeah, you pull a lot of life lessons. Hey, well, we both seem to pull a lot of life lessons from the sport and the things, obstacles that you have to overcome as a result of it. So for both of us, even though you know, I played team sports my whole life, really, and you did individual sports primarily. I think the lessons and the obstacles that you overcome as a result of them, I think have both been really significant to us. Hey, it's something that you wouldn't do without.
Yeah, so I was a lot like my dad. My dad was more into the water skiing and individual sports sort of scene. So, but my brother, he's really good at everything. He's a freak, so he's really sort of into all the things.
Athletic,
yeah, very athletic as a kid. Even now, he just picks anything up. So, and my mum was very much like that. So she was always pushing me into team sports, and I was like, oh, hell no. So yeah, that's pretty much my childhood.
That's the wrap up of our childhood issues.
Yeah, but I'm super grateful for it. had a lot of fun as kids. And yeah, it was awesome.
Cool. All right. Well, so that's a bit of an idea of our sort of background, how we got here, you know, that sort of thing. I thought now we could move on to our ideas around personal training, how we ended up in becoming personal trainers and what that all sort of looked like.
Yeah.
So, me go first?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. When I left school, I was working in a pub in Ingham, and I was stoked because like I was making money. It's the first time I was ever making money. I was like casual, working like any hours I could. I worked out that if I worked on Saturday and Sunday, then I would make a higher rate. I thought it was just the best thing ever. So I was always pretty driven by making a couple of bucks. So I was stoked to be making money. And Mum's like, you know, you're going to be a barman your whole life. Can we come up with some sort of plan? I was like, yeah. And I was like, man, I wasn't interested in having a plan. I knew that I did uni subjects at school. I didn't get great. It was an OP then. Is it still an OP?
It's like ATAR now, I think. Or something.
Okay, yep. I didn't get a great OP. I could have went to uni for something, I suppose, but it was not even an option. I was like, there is no way I'm doing another 4 years of school. And that's how I looked at it. I was always pretty sporty, and Mum happened to, I think it was in the newspaper, when people read newspapers. There happened to be a thing in there about become a personal trainer. I didn't even know what a personal trainer was. I looked at, I think I had a careers book from school, so I looked up personal trainer in that, and it explained what a personal trainer was.
Who's A to Z careers books?
Yeah, that's exactly what it was. And it was a TAFE course. At the time, you could do personal training at TAFE. I don't think that exists anymore. And it was a Cert 3 in fitness. It was in Townsville. And that was pretty appealing to me. I wanted to move out of Ingham. It was starting to feel like a small town, and I was starting to grow up, I suppose. So that was something that was, you know, interesting to me. And we decided. Mum was like all for it, doing something that was, something that had some sort of substance about it. I think that I was like a positive direction. And so that's what I did. I moved to Townsville when I was in the new year. I think like the year after school, so I was 17 or whatever. Moved to Townsville and did the personal training course, and that's sort of how it started for me. It was an 18-month full-time course at that time. Face-to-face, which is really cool. So I met some really good people. Had some really good trainers, like the people that did the training, and I found the more that I sort of did, the more I really enjoyed it. I could start to see how there was going to be a career in this, which was really cool because it's like I never knew that I could sort of build a career out of sport or exercise or sort of health. It wasn't even health so much then, it was more sort of sport and exercise. Yeah. And I was starting to see that. It was the first time that I ever stepped foot into a gym. So as a kid, even as a soccer player, I might have went to some gyms, but I don't think I can. I think that really the first time I formally stepped foot inside the gym was when I started that course. Primarily all the training that I did was outdoors. Yeah. And I had no idea what muscles moved, anything. I remember we had, like, on one of our first days, we had a sheet that said, like, name the muscles used in a bench press. And I was like,
what the hell?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I knew what a bench press was because everyone knows what a bench press is, I suppose, but I didn't know anything. I didn't know what muscles did what. I didn't know how it worked. I didn't know how the gym worked, and this was my first sort of step into it. Got qualified after sort of 18 months, and I started working. I got a job in Townsville at the uni originally. It wasn't a great job. It wasn't just the way it was. Then I got into some personal training. It was really interesting. All of my sort of jobs in fitness, I only had 2 prior to that. I learned a lot. some good things, some not so good things that we won't do on video. But I learnt heaps, and after some time, I think I worked as an employee for about 18 months, or maybe not 2 years, probably 18 months, something like that. And after that, I started to get a bit of an idea that I might want to do this as a business.
Yeah.
So, how did you get into personal training, and why, and what was the motivation for you?
Yeah, well, I think after school, I did all the OP subjects at school as well. But I had no idea what I wanted to do. I got accepted into uni to do teaching and child psychology. So it was going to be a dual degree, but I wasn't ready to go to uni. And pretty much, I think it was the following February after school finished, the cyclone came through.
Oh, yeah.
The Yassi comes through, so it was just like a wipeout of a year. That was really
And
really
the town.
yeah, and the town. So it was quite a tough year, especially my parents lost their entire business. So we were very grateful to still have our home, although it was damaged. But yeah, it was quite a tough year. So that sort of wiped that year out. I was very fortunate though. When I was sort of at the end of school, I got just a casual retail job just in town. Again, I was really enjoying making money and just the experience of it all. And I just sort of, it came to me that it was really important that I got some life skills before I was going to lock myself into a degree.
It's like learning how to be an adult for a minute, eh?
Yeah, well, I just thought, how am I meant to teach
Anyone,
people anything if I haven't been an adult myself yet? So, and I turned, my birthday is late in the year, so I graduated year 12 at 16.
Yep.
So it was just like, what the heck? So yeah, and then I ended up getting a job with a local housing company. So a little bit more formal. It was a full-time job, so that was really good, great experience there. And then I moved up to Atherton, worked on a avocado farm, and absolutely loved that experience. I worked in consignment and in the pack shed as well, so, and just here, there and everywhere around farming, so I learned so much up there, lots of life skills and so many different skills that I was then able to sort of take with me. And then I got into a local boot camp up there and really enjoyed it. I was always really active, so I did lots of walking and running and swimming, but I was never sort of really in the group fitness sort of scene. Oh, I loved boxing too. So yeah, I got into it all and really, really loved it. And
did you exercise every day as like a teenager? Or like 20s? Riley exercises every day. Every day. So I don't exercise every day. There's some days where I'm just like not interested at all. Riley exercises every day.
I have 1 day off a week. I do. I always have 1 day off a week. But
sometimes
I was not into exercise back then like I am now.
Yeah.
But I would always move my body in a sense. So I was also a really good swimmer all through my childhood and into my teens. And so I swam a lot all through high school and even after school too. So I was always really into my swimming. So I guess whether I went for a swim or a walk, I moved in some way every day. And we'd get home from school and we'd jump on our bikes for 2 or 3 hours until it was dark and we couldn't see anymore. So it was constant, we were always out and about doing something.
Yeah.
So but anyway, I really enjoyed the sort of boot camp scene, and I'd never really been to the gym. So yeah, I sort of went in to my course, never really set foot in the gym either.
Yep.
So it was quite cool. I found a course online. It was really weird. I got sent this random email saying
True.
PT courses in
Yeah,
Cairns, blah blah blah, starts
now.
I was like, oh yeah, shit, yeah, I'm going to sign up for that. So I signed up for it, which was big for me because I don't normally do stuff like that, but it just must have felt right at the time. And I did like a 6-week intensive for my course in Cairns. It took me about a year to complete the entire course. I also did a diploma in business along with it because they offered that, so I thought, why not? So I did that too. Did 6 weeks intensive in Cairns, so I was there for pretty much 6 weeks working in the gym as well as doing classes and stuff with the course.
Yep.
And I absolutely loved everything about it. I loved learning about different things about the body, how it worked, and especially growing up with my health the way it was. I don't like to call it a health issue because it's not. it's me, and that's just how I am. So it just really interested me. I was really intrigued to learn more. So from there, I really got into the nutrition side of things, and I ended up taking gluten and dairy and getting really sort of looking at what nutrition did with thyroid and trying to connect all the dots. And I started connecting all the dots, and yeah, it opened up so many doors. I felt so much more better in myself, and I learnt how to move my body in a way that would make me feel better. So yeah, it was amazing. And once I graduated, I worked up there for a few months, just around the gym that I learnt my course in, and got a little bit of experience up there. Came back to Tully, and just did some work here and there, just PT work, because I was working here, so of an afternoon I would do PTs here and there, and that was really good. And then I ended up getting quite sick. That was probably about 6 years ago now, 7 years ago, just with my thyroid. Had a bit of an issue with medications and whatnot. Doctors were sort of switching up different ones, and it was a bit of trial and error, and it ended up pretty much flattening me for a good 2 years. So I had a good 2 years off altogether. I didn't work at all, so I couldn't hardly...
Really properly sick, eh?
Yeah, I could hardly function. So, yeah, it was a really, really rough couple of years. But coming out of that, I got really into yoga once I could start being up. Once I was up and mobile again, I got into yoga. There was no way in hell I could even think about doing anything strenuous, because with thyroid, with the issue I had, I was getting palpitations. So the thyroid controls the way that your heart beats. So if it's too fast, your heart beats really fast, and if it's too slow, So mine ended up going in overdrive with the medication that they prescribed me. It was too much, so they put me on an adult man's dose. I would think, like I'm not a big person, so they put me on this baseline dose, and it was just way too much. I'd never had that medication before, and it completely ruined my whole system.
Yeah, stripped the weight off you.
But everything stopped talking, all organs stopped talking. So it was just, I won't get into it because it was a really complicated situation, but there was no way that I could do anything strenuous like I was prior to that happening. So
change your perspective around exercise and nutrition. I think has probably been the biggest
number
thing
one.
From what you learned from being sick.
I was really into my nutrition before, but using nutrition as medicine to get me through that
was the next level.
And it just gave me a whole new perspective on the way food contributes to your health, and the way it can heal you, and also made me really grateful because, like you do take your body for granted. You don't realise what it does for you every single day until you're lying flat in a bed for 3 months and you can't physically do anything. So, that really, it gave me a really huge appreciation for that. But so I got really into yoga and then started walking, And as I got stronger, I was just moving to a point that nourished my body and was just this gradual strengthening process. And I got to a point where I was just walking, doing my yoga, and doing a little bit of like boxing here and there, not getting my heart rate up too much, and I was approached by you. So I was really nervous because I hadn't done it for a couple of years. I hadn't trained anyone for a couple of years, and I hadn't been in this scene. So I was really nervous at the start. But once I did get into it, it was just, I loved it. I loved it so much, and I loved working in this space because it's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. I think Riley's story and Riley's experience has sort of driven the importance that's formed, I think, some of the fundamentals around our idea and perspective around nutrition and our recommendation on nutrition. I think we see a lot of people come through with different sort of perspectives around nutrition. We look at nutrition as a completely different thing, I think.
Yeah, sometimes we think like people look at us and they're like, what
Yeah,
the
these
fuck
people
are
are
you on?
weird. Yeah. Or they think maybe they think that we're a bit too over the top with nutrition, but that idea of eating your medicine or the food that you consume keeps you healthy long term in a whole heap of different areas and levels.
Yeah.
Is something that we just fundamentally, Riley firsthand, and me having seen people with through my experiences neglect their nutrition and their body and it not going well. You know, like the first person that I trained that passed away with obesity related illnesses, I was 19 the first time I saw that. And that was the first time I asked someone to bring in their food receipts. So when she would go shopping, I would ask her to bring in her receipts, and it was like everything was from the freezer section. I was 19. I didn't know how to deal with it. I was like, this is a problem.
Yeah.
Flash forward like 18 months, that lady died.
Yeah.
I was like,
And you were so
fucking-
young too. It was like, what the hell?
Yeah, it was just like a blowout for me. So
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
the experience that Riley and I both share. Riley firsthand is the extremes of what can happen,
Yeah.
both negative and positive,
Yeah.
as a result of nutrition.
Yeah, so exactly right. Like we've always eaten really well ever since we were young. We've always eaten really quite healthily. And yeah, it wasn't until that sort of experience. I was off gluten, I was off dairy, I was doing no refined sugars prior to that. So I was lucky that I was quite healthy and had quite a strong sort of constitution built up for me before that. But it's not until your intestines don't work and you have to go on a liquid diet for 6 weeks and build your gut lining back that you really think, holy crap, food is a healer. And I did that for 6 weeks, and it was a real mission to try and get as many nutrients into the liquids that I could in order to nourish my entire body and get
Even
enough
calories,
nutrients and
yeah.
calories, yeah. Because
Liquid
there was
only.
nothing on me. I was 42 kilos at the age of 21, I think I was. So it was just like, it was rank. But I researched, and found every little bit of information I could to make that happen. And the slow cooker went every day, my blender went every day, non-stop. And yeah, it was just navigating your way through that. And that really gave me a whole new perspective and opened the door into natural medicine. So I'm now studying to be a naturopath. I'm doing a Bachelor of Health Science, and that was one of the stepping stones that really made me passionate about this area, because that was the only way forward for me to recover from that. So, and just with my condition in general, that's been the only way forward for me throughout my life. I've been really lucky. Mum's had me into naturopaths my whole entire life. And especially after that situation, it was like, yep, I need to do this for selfish reasons for me, as well as spread the word out there, and really let people know that they can heal. They're not just a label. Their condition does not define them. The body is made to heal, and it's made to regenerate, and I don't think modern medicine supports that. So I do in a certain way, like we need our modern medicine. It is so important. You know, if you fell off the roof and broke your leg, or if you cut yourself or something, like you need those. That is so important. But I think in terms of like a healing crisis or a condition such as mine, it's really important to have that holistic approach to healing it. So
and that's something that you're going to see, I think, reflected in our business and our business ventures going forward. Is
the way that we do everything here is a really holistic approach.
That's what we're interested in. We're interested in the whole picture.
There's no one size fits all either.
You
know, one person will be there, they'll be doing a completely different program to that person over there, because their whole life, their whole background, their whole body, everything is different, so they need something that suits them. So
and that's exactly how we plan to do things, going forward.
Going forward.
So which is pretty cool. I think. All right, cool. So I thought I'd do a bit of a brief, or a bit of a longer video today. So we'll do a bit of a brief run through of sort of where Tweak Fitness came from, and then maybe a little touch on where we're going.
How we met.
That's right. Basically after some crappy experiences, I suppose, in the fitness industry, I thought, man, I can do this. I thought that I could provide a really good service. I thought I could do it at a good price. I thought that I had enough savings to do it. So I had like $5,000 in the bank, and it'd be a good idea with a mortgage to quit my job and go into business. And I was, 19 or whatever it was. So that's what I did. I started out in Townsville. It was hard. Had to learn a lot. There's a lot of stuff that I just didn't know about and didn't consider, and you just sort of have to learn on the fly, and that's exactly what I did. I did a stack more training, again in nutrition and different styles of training, boxing and you know, strength and conditioning and powerlifting and supplements and business. Quite a lot in
like self-help work.
100%, to try and understand what I was doing and how I could do it better, and how I could deliver a better product to my clients at the time, and then ultimately how I could sort of expand the business. So it didn't go smoothly, it was not easy. I would not trade it for the world. It's been a really good experience. The name Tweak Fitness came about because I was looking for something that suggested that people are good the way they are. They could just be a little better with some sort of small tweak. And that's sort of where it came from. The logo, Dad drew. The logo Dad drew, and we came up with it. Like, I don't know, I found a graphic design from somewhere. I have no idea how. They did some logo examples for me. They did some business cards and some shirts. My first business shirts were blue, which has got nothing to do with any of the business colours at all. So
it's probably like the standard polo shirt that you bought from the embroidery place, hey?
So like, we have these. I was like, that'll do. We'll get that. And
I'll put the logo on there.
That's right, and that's what we did, and that's how we got started.
It was funny. Sorry, on a tangent, when we were moving out of Jaden's unit, we were going to rent it, and we found a box of all your old merch and uniforms and stuff. And we still have it. It's very sentimental.
Primitive. Anyway, but that was what we had, and that's sort of what we got started with. It was really cool. We sort of grew the business a little bit in Townsville. Had some subcontract PTs, so sort of my first steps into having staff. then we did the gym. No, we didn't do the gym. We started boot camp in Ingham, which is where I was from. So I was travelling from Townsville to Ingham, which is
40,000 times a week.
yeah, which is when I started to really clock up the kilometres. So we were doing sort of boot camp, I think Monday, Wednesday, Friday morning in Townsville, and then boot camp Monday, Wednesday, Friday afternoon in Ingham, something like that. And that's sort of how we got started. From there, we did the Ingham gym. Started Ingham gym at 94 Lennox Street, which was awesome. It was like a major achievement for me at the time. We had several attempts at going into business in Ingham.
How long have you been?
21, I think, the gym in Ingham. So we had several attempts at going into business in Ingham. I learned some really valuable lessons, like sometimes people aren't always nice to you in business. Sometimes people don't have good intentions for you in business. Sometimes people would like to know your idea, so then they can take your idea. And these are things that I didn't know, and I learned firsthand. So that was just the way it was. So starting a gym in Ingham took slightly longer than how I first intended it to, but whatever, that's the way it happened, and I learned some stuff as a result of it. We did the gym then in Tully sort of 18 months after. We were just sort of riding a wave. So I was like super excited. I was working as many hours as I possibly could. I developed like a little bit of insomnia here and there, which I thought was just the best thing ever, because I could then work 20 hours a day and only had to sleep 4, which is just thrilling. I could work 7 days a week, which is what I did, and just loved it, because it was just rolling on a roll.
And ruined his adrenals.
Yeah. That's just what happened. I was just so excited by all of it, and then
so young too. Like, it would have just been amazing.
Yeah, it was just a wild ride.
Yeah.
Really cool. And then we were like, I wanted to do gyms here and here and here and here and here, and I'm like looking at all different things. And, let's do this and this and this. And throughout the sort of process, we had like started to get more staff on. We started to offer more services, and then I was like spreading my time thinner and thinner. We end up stopping training in Townsville. It wasn't, it wasn't viable the way that it was, because I really didn't have the time to be there. I had to sort of divide my time between Ingham and Tully. So we sort of ceased operations down there and focused on the gyms in Ingham and Tully. But throughout that time, I was looking to grow and build the business. I think at that time I did probably maybe not my most growing, but I made heaps of mistakes in that time, because I just didn't know what I didn't know. I didn't know how to properly manage people. I was, I think, probably looking out maybe a little bit more than looking into the businesses. So I was looking to expand and be really aggressive with our growth, which were really interesting things. But I think at the same time I made some, I think, pretty significant errors around management and that sort of thing, which I learned a lot from.
Yeah.
But I think it's just all part and parcel
It totally is.
Growing some businesses. I think having made those mistakes, I think we were really fortunate in that it wasn't to the detriment so much of the business. So you hear these stories of people starting businesses and making mistakes that lead to the failure of the business. That's not been my experience, thank God. But you just sort of learn and grow from it, which has been really cool. Which has got us sort of to here. Like we did sell the gym in Ingham last year. Started last year. Start of 2019. It was the best thing for me. We put both gyms on the market, Ingham and Tully. The reason was I was burnt out. I was
done too, to be
done.
honest.
Yeah. I just wanted nothing more to do with it. I was just so over it. I was sick of staff issues. I was sick of business issues. I was sick of getting up at 6 o'clock in the morning and finishing work at 9 o'clock at night.
4 o'clock?
4 o'clock in the morning. Yeah, we didn't get up at 6 o'clock so much. I was sick of driving
6 o'clock was sleeping.
Yeah, I was sick of driving 1,000 kilometres. I was sick of driving 1,000 kilometres a week, and so that was, that was the thing. So we sold it. Was the absolute best thing we could have done. We sold it and moved.
Yeah.
And just some distance sort of gave us a new appreciation for the industry and the business that we have here in Tully, and we're super excited, I think, now to...
Not only that,
Yeah, we could... We just had a video drop out, but that's cool.
Oh, sorry. So not only that, you were so burnt out though, you needed a rest.
Yeah.
You needed a physical rest. So so we moved to Brisbane because I'm studying my Bachelor of Health Science, and my campus is based down there, and we've always really loved it down there.
Yep.
So we've always really wanted to sort of have a go at living down there, and because we were quite frequent down there, we loved being down there. So and I think that year of taking a step back, we still had the business here, so Jaden was doing all the admin still for here.
Yep.
We obviously had Dylan then running like on the ground here.
Yep.
So very, very grateful for everything he does for us. So it was really good just to take that step back, hey, and just have a minute.
Yep.
And I think
it was not a choice really, hey?
No.
It just had to happen because we
were buggered.
Yeah. So we'd planned to move even prior to selling the gym.
Yeah.
It was like
it's happening.
We're out of here because we need some distance, we need some time, and we need just to break away from it because it was all consuming. It was a lot. We were living in between both gyms, traveling
Separate ways.
Yeah, separate ways.
Every day. Early mornings, late nights.
Every day.
Every single day. And
Yeah.
my health started to go downhill.
Yep.
It doesn't take much to push me over the edge. Just with what I've got going on. So, we were just burnt.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially you. You hadn't stopped for 10 years.
Well, it felt like that. And,
Yeah.
But I think the biggest thing, we sort of learned from that, hey, we made the change, which was really good. Now we can seem to look at things now with a fresh set of eyes because we've had that sort of distance, that space, that time.
And we have so much, I think, not that we didn't appreciate it before, but we really do appreciate what we have here and what we've built here.
And what we can do, like what we still have to offer, I think, for people. Hey,
we're not finished, and there's a lot in the pipeline that we want to achieve.
Yeah.
So,
I think that's definitely part of the benefits of having that break and sort of stepping away is that now we can look at things and say, hey, let's have a crack at doing these other things that we've been wanting to do for some time. Now we've got some space in our head to do it. So let's do it. I think we're not ready, I suppose, to divulge too much information about the things that we have planned going on, but I think the biggest thing is the shift in us to want to go ahead and do those things now, because we really didn't have that while we were living here and while we were doing those things, hey, because it's just, we were too consumed in the day-to-day, and not being able to see the bigger picture. And I think the big thing that comes from that is the benefits to the community and our members as a result of us now having a minute to just chill out and have a breather.
Yeah.
And then re-look at the business and say, hey, we can expand by doing this, this, and this.
Yeah.
So let's do it.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what we're trying to do. So we've got another video series going alongside this one, which no one's seen just yet, on exactly how we plan to do that.
Expanding.
And how we plan to do that in our next steps forward, which I think is going to be really cool. But a couple of minor things, like well, not minor things, but a couple of things we've done during the coronavirus sort of break. We've brought some new equipment into the gym, which has really been cool. Implemented the new Evolt 360 scanner, which is a game changer in terms of health and,
Yeah.
and fitness analysis
Yeah.
for people, which is
Yeah, and really getting clear on what we want to
what
do
we want to do. Yeah,
next.
yeah,
with
and
the
how
business.
that's right,
So
and how that will in turn help our members and
the community.
Yeah.
We really want. We love busyness, don't we? We
Yeah.
love seeing little towns boom.
Yeah,
It's something that we just love. Like we'll be on a road trip somewhere and go through a small town
Yeah.
and it's going crazy, it's going off, and we're just like, oh my god, this like the
Yeah.
vibe is just amazing, and that's what we want for Tully.
Yeah.
So it's definitely not something that's just for us.
Oh, yeah.
It's for what
Man.
we've created here,
Yeah.
our members, most importantly, and like the community. Like we want to see this town pump. So.
If it was just for us, god damn, it's not easy to do business in a small town.
Oh shit, no. I think that's something that's really important to us.
Yeah, yeah, 100%.
But yeah, I think that's pretty much it on what's brought us to here.
Yep, that's our story to this
Yeah.
point. I think gives you a bit of an indication of who we are and what our ideas and ideals are.
Yeah.
So I hope you could get something from that. I hope maybe you could relate to some of the things that we perhaps struggled with and learned from.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's it.
Yeah, I think that's it for now. If you have any questions, please let us know. Just post them below, or give us a message or whatever.
Yeah, we'd love your feedback.
We can answer them in the next video. That's no worries at all.
Yeah, if you found some value and you'd like to share or tag a friend in this video, we'd love your help in getting the word out there.
Yeah.
This is something that we're going to do on a regular basis, and yeah, we'd love to bring some value to you. So yeah, that's it.
Thank you so much for watching. We really appreciate it.
Yeah,
And,
this is a long one today.
It is a really long one, but we're so grateful for the little community that we live in, and everyone who supports us here. It's really beyond appreciated. We really thank you for that. So
Cool.
yeah.
That's it. We're out. Thanks, guys. Lunchtime.
Yeah.
Starving. See you in the next one.
See you guys.